There are places in this world where stories refuse to die, where the trees remember what people tried to forget, and the rivers carry whispers older than the villages that line their banks. One such place lies deep within the forests of Mount Terra, where the nights fall thick as velvet and the fog rises like a living thing. Here, in the forgotten village of Zarožje, people speak of a name they never say after sunset, a name that belongs to a man, a legend, and a terror that may never have left the world of the living. This is the story of Sava Savanović. Tara Mountain is a place of breathtaking beauty. Steep slopes covered in dense pine, rivers carving their way through ancient rock, and valleys where the sunlight seems hesitant to linger. For centuries, people who lived here relied on the land, the forests, the water, and the grain mills that powered daily life. One of those mills, a wooden structure perched along the Rogačica River, would become the center of one of the most enduring vampire legends in the Balkans. At first glance, it was no different from the dozens of mills that once dotted rural Serbia. But unlike the others, this mill would become a gateway between the living and the dead. Zarožje is small, quiet, tucked away from the world like a memory someone tried to hide. To outsiders, its narrow roads, old houses, and simple routines feel peaceful. But the villagers know better. Their peace is a fragile shell, stretched thin over a history soaked in fear. People here grow up with stories, not fairy tales, but warnings. Warnings about the mill by the river, warnings about a man whose death changed nothing, warnings about the nights when the wind carries something that sounds almost like wings. Before he became a monster in legend, Sava Savanović was a man. Accounts describe him as wealthy but cruel, a man feared not for strength or violence but for the coldness in his heart. He trusted no one, helped no one, cared for nothing but his own fortune. Children were told not to look him in the eye. Adults avoided his shadow in the street. People said even animals fell silent when he walked by. And so, when Sava eventually died, the village felt relief, a collective exhale. But the relief was short-lived, because the dead do not always stay where they are buried. Not long after Sava's burial, strange things began happening at the mill. Millers who often worked overnight, finishing grain before the dawn markets, started to vanish. Some were found at sunrise, their bodies cold, their faces drained of blood, their lips blue and stiff, their throats bore marks, wounds that no wolf or bear could have made. Others were never found at all. Those who survived long enough to tell their stories spoke of tapping on the walls, deliberate, rhythmic, like knuckles brushing wood. They heard footsteps above them when no one else was in the building, and sometimes, just on the edge of sight, they saw something small and dark glide between the rafters. A shape that moved like a butterfly but carried a presence that felt wrong. Whispers spread quickly. People said that Sava in death had become something else. Not a ghost, not a demon, but a vampire, a creature trapped between the worlds. Yet Sava was not said to appear in human form when he hunted. According to the oldest stories, he slipped into the mill disguised as a black butterfly, silent, patient, drifting through shadows like a living piece of night. He would perch near the sleeping miller, waiting, breathing, watching. And when he changed back into the form of a man, the victim never awoke. As the deaths continued, the villagers reacted the only way they knew how. They stopped using the mill after sunset. Then they stopped using it altogether. The once busy wooden structure fell silent, claimed by moss, shadow, and something colder than nature. Parents warned their children never to go near it. Travelers refused to pass by the river alone. People from nearby villages would stand at a distance, pointing, whispering, crossing themselves. The mill became known by a new name, the House of Death. Years turned into decades. Decades turned into generations. And yet the story persisted. Each new generation added details. A cousin who heard tapping at the old mill, a shepherd who saw a dark figure by the water, a traveler who claimed a butterfly followed him in the night. The legend grew, twisting itself into local culture. And when the film Leptirica was released, a movie inspired by the same legend, fear took root again. Even with modern electricity, paved roads, and internet in every home, the villagers carried the same belief. Sava Savanović was not gone. Not truly. Then about 10 years ago, the villagers made a decision. The old mill, rotting, tilting, barely standing, would be restored. Tourists came asking about the vampire's mill. Some villagers saw opportunity, others saw danger. But before any work began, one morning the structure simply collapsed. No storm, no wind, no reason. It fell inward, as if hollow, as if whatever held it together had suddenly vanished. Some said it was just time. Others whispered, the vampire has left his house. What happens when a vampire loses its home? Nothing good. Some believed the mill held Sava's power. Some believed it held him prisoner. Some believed it kept him anchored. And now, untethered, he could roam freely. Garlic wreaths appeared on doors. Crosses were carved into thresholds. Sacks of salt were placed on windowsills. Television crews arrived, reporting with laughter about Serbia's homeless vampire. But in Zarožje, no one laughed. Then came the signs. Dogs barking at empty riverbanks, animals trembling in pens, goats found weak, as if something had drained their strength. Couples walking home late felt a cold presence pass between them in the dark. A fisherman at dawn reported a small winged shadow hovering over the water, silent, deliberate, watching. When he blinked, it was gone. These events didn't happen every night, just often enough to remind the village that something still lingered. Eventually, after much debate, the villagers rebuilt the mill, at least partially, enough to give tourists something to see, enough to honor tradition, enough to preserve the legend. But even repaired, the mill felt wrong. It creaked even with no wind. Dust collected in corners as if disturbed by breath. The wheel sometimes shifted a few inches during the night, despite dry water channels. Some said Sava returned to check on his home. Others said he stayed near the river, waiting for the fog. People laugh at stories like these when they're told from a comfortable distance. But legends born from fear tend to survive for a reason. In Zarožje, no one walks alone near the river after dusk. No one stands near the mill after dark. No one ignores the sound of wings if they hear them flutter above the water. Because here, in the shadow of Mount Tara, people understand something outsiders do not. The world is older than our sense of safety, older than our logic, older than our explanations. There are things in the dark that do not care whether we believe in them. And some names like Sava Savanović, are whispered only when the night is quiet and the air feels colder than it should. So if you ever find yourself wandering the paths of Tara and you see the silhouette of the mill rise ahead of you, leaning, creaking, watching, stop, listen, wait. Because if the night is still enough, if the river mist is thick enough, if your heart is open enough to notice what others ignore, you might hear it. A rustle, a whisper, a flutter in the dark. And in that moment, you will understand why the people of Zarožje do not speak his name after sunset. Sava Savanović may be dead, maybe alive, maybe something in between. But one thing is certain, he never truly left.